Hi, welcome everyone. Good morning. I'm Gemma DiMatteo, the Research Director at the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network, or the network. I'm excited to have you all here for the briefing of our 12th edition of the California Child Care Portfolio. And I'm also excited to announce that this year is the network's 40th anniversary. So just a little housekeeping before we get started. Everybody is muted. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type them into the questions box on the GoToWebinar widget. And we'll leave plenty of time at the end of the webinar to go over any Q&A. If you're having any technical issues with the webinar, please email our Research and Policy Associate, Sherry Zhang. Her email is on the slide there, and Sherry also will type in her email into the chat box, and we'll be monitoring that. And Sherry will be monitoring the questions box as well if you have any clarifying questions throughout the presentation. So the California Child Care Portfolio has been published biennially every 2 years since 1997, and it's the only documentation of licensed supply and request data by county and statewide. And since we have now over 2 decades of data, we're uniquely able to look at historical trends in supply and demand. And this quote here is from our very first portfolio and is from our late founder, Patty Siegel. So all of the childcare supply and demand data in the portfolio comes directly from those on the ground, which is our local childcare resource and referral programs, or R&Rs. And R&R staff connect parents and providers and offer free resources and support to both populations. And they also have the most up-to-date and comprehensive information on licensed care in California. And this includes information on small family child care homes. Those are family child care homes with a license of 6 or 8. And their information is considered protected data, so it's not publicly available. So our research team does an extensive checks and cleaning process of the data with a lot of communication with the R&Rs to make sure that this data is as accurate as possible. And due to our relationship with the local R&Rs, we also have the unique opportunity to understand the stories behind the data and hear what's happening on the ground in the local communities. So today I'm going to go through some of the major statewide findings and insights, but please visit our website to see more detailed data for the state and your county, and I'll show the link to where you can find that at the end of the presentation. So one of the first main findings is statewide, we saw a continued decrease in the total licensed child care supply of about 2% from the last portfolio in 2017. So this means that over 22,000 less children are able to attend licensed care. And you can see that center-based care was fairly stable over the years until the last few years. So since 2014, there's been a 2% decrease in center supply, and since 2017, about a 0.5% decrease. Family child care homes, on the other hand, have continued to see a pretty steep decrease since 2008, during the start of the recession, with about 30% of spaces lost since 2008 and 5% of spaces lost since 2017. So how does this compare, this total amount of licensed supply, to the number of children in California who might need childcare? So there's over 6 million children that are 0 to 12 in California. For all of those children, this licensed supply only accounts for 15% of them. So we saw some interesting regional differences in the change of supply since 2017. So the North and the Central Valley both saw a little bit of an increase actually in total supply and center supply, and they had the smallest decrease in family child care supply. The Bay Area and the South saw a decrease in both centers and homes and had larger decreases in homes. And the Bay Area had the largest decrease with 6% spaces lost. So, as you saw before, the state has been experiencing a decline of family child care spaces. This graph shows the change in the number of family child care homes, which are small businesses operated out of an individual's home and regulated by licensing. So between 2008 and 2019, the number of these family child care businesses has decreased by 33%. And a few years ago, we did a survey of family childcare providers in 9 counties, and some of the main challenges that they described facing were low wages, having employment options with better benefits, and housing issues. So these maps show the percent change in family childcare homes compared to 2008. So the first map here shows the change between 2008 and 2010, and the the orange to red means a decrease, and yellow to green means an increase. And so this is 2008 to 2012. You can see that it starts to become more red. This is 2008 to 2014, and you can see the state is hit pretty hard at this point. And this is because the recession has a lagging effect on childcare and social services. So it took a few years to see the biggest hit on the state. So this is 2008 to 2017. And this is from 2019 data. So this is 2008 to 2019. And you can see some of the areas of the state that have been hardest hit here. So why do we care so much about the decline in family child care? Other than it contributing to the total decline in licensed supply, family child care providers uniquely meet the needs of many working families. They're more likely to care for infants and toddlers, which is a type of care that is really hard to find. They have more affordable care options. They have smaller group sizes, and they also provide more flexible schedules. For example, as you can see here, they're more likely to offer both full-time and part-time care, and they're more likely to provide non-traditional hours of care, which are evening, overnight, and weekend care. So another reason to care about family child care, this graph shows the number of CDE child care vouchers that are being used in each setting. So family child care center or license exempt. The graph on the right shows the proportion of these vouchers going to each setting. And these child care vouchers, when a family gets them, they can choose where they want to use it. So you can see starting in about 2012, family child care has the highest proportion where the vouchers are being used. And since then, it's been steadily increasing. And this is despite the decline in the number of family child care homes and spaces, which means that a higher proportion of family child care homes are caring for these children with child care subsidies and vouchers, which means that they're caring for some of the most vulnerable children. So in our recent report on non-traditional hours in childcare, we surveyed parents who work non-traditional hours and asked about their satisfaction with their childcare arrangement. And when we separated those responses by the type of provider they said they had, this is what we found. So these graphs go from the left, very satisfied, to the right, very dissatisfied. and it's separated by if they had a family childcare provider, a center, family friend or neighbor watching their child, or a babysitter or nanny. And you can see that those with a family childcare provider had the most left skewed, or in other words, were the most satisfied with their care. So these are some quotes that we got from the parents in our study. So the first one, I had licensed in home care. She worked in a hospital setting in the past, so she understood my schedule. She let me drop off early and pick up late and made her schedule around my work schedule. It was the best experience I could ask for. My family childcare provider would go above and beyond to have my children well. Arriving tired and frustrated, she would have something positive to say about my kiddos. That would make my day. Plus, she was available upon my variable schedule. So all of this shows how important it is to support programs that work to support the existing family childcare providers and also to help recruit new ones. And this is what the California Child Care Initiative Project, or CIP, does. And there's a CIP program in every R&R in California. Between 2011 and 2018, they helped to create over 43,000 new childcare spaces. And in the last fiscal year, 18 to 19, they helped to open at least 24% of the over 3,000 new licensed homes. So moving on to the request data, in the portfolio, we've been reporting on the percentage of childcare requests for non-traditional hours of care, again, which is overnight, evening, and weekend. And this year it was 12%. But we've actually heard recently from the R&Rs that this is likely an undercount of the actual demand, since often this search filter will be removed when looking for care, since there are so few providers that officially offer it. And so it's also interesting to look at the breakdown of those non-traditional requests. So over half, almost 2/3 of the non-traditional requests are for weekend care, 30% were for evening, and 9% for overnight. So another very important aspect of childcare is affordability for families. So these are two family budgets showing two different scenarios for the same family, which is a family of three who is just under the income eligibility for subsidized care. So a family of three making $54,027 a year. So the first family on the left does not have a child care subsidy and spends about 80% of their income on housing and childcare, which leaves $945 a month before taxes to pay for everything else, including food, healthcare, transportation, clothing, etc. And this can risk pushing that family into homelessness. So the same family on the right-hand side with a subsidy pays 10% of their income on their family fee for childcare, and they have almost $2,500 pre-tax to meet all of their other family needs. But the thing is, this hypothetical family making about $54,000 will likely never get a subsidy because they'll always be lowest on the list, since priority is given to the lowest income families. And out of the over 2 million children eligible for subsidized care, less than 17% are receiving it. So Parent Voices, which is another program at the network, did interviews with parents on the subsidy waitlist. So parents who were eligible for a subsidy but were on this waitlist for a while. And these quotes describe really well how hard it is to need that subsidy and to not have it. I'm about to be homeless because I can't pay any of the bills this month, including my rent, because I haven't been able to work fully because of childcare. I'm on the verge of losing everything because I cannot get the assistance needed. The system is backwards. Why do we have to lose everything before getting the help we need? So even for a family with a median income in California, which is over $81,000 a year, they'll spend almost 1/3 of their pre-tax income every month for an infant in a family child care home and a preschooler in a center. And the state considers child care affordable if it's a maximum of 7% of a family's income. This means that a family with these two young children in California would have to make at least $341,000 a year. So, to sum everything up, California is still in dire need to build its licensed childcare supply as it's still decreasing. Increased support for family childcare homes is vital so that we can try to reverse this downward trend. And we need more public funding so that low and middle income families can afford childcare without sacrificing other family needs. Thank you all for joining us today. Here is the link you can use to visit our portfolio page on our website, and you can see your county data as well as more information on the statewide data. And my contact information is below. You can feel free to email or call me with questions anytime. We'll also leave this time to go over any questions that have come up in the questions box. So feel free to type anything in there and Sherry will read those out loud.
We have questions about the webinar PowerPoint and if it's being recorded, this webinar.
Yes, good question. So it is being recorded and we will post the recording and the slides on our website. We can also email them out to all of you after the webinar.
Okay, and we have one question about the spaces, the decline in spaces. What is the cause of spaces being lost?
So I'll speak more specifically to family child care homes, assuming that that's what they're asking about. So there's a variety of factors that influence the family child care supply decreasing. When we did the survey with family child care providers, as I mentioned, some of the main reasons that they mentioned, and this is some of them were still open, but we're still facing these challenges. And that was just the low wages. So family child care providers make very little money and it's a lot of work and they're often working up to 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Another reason is because the economy is doing better now, there are often other jobs in the area that pay more and offer benefits, breaks, things like that. So we've heard of providers that will, although they love what they do, it's not financially stable and will leave to work at, a Costco or something like that. Yeah, and we saw that after the recession, that's when the decline started, but it's never really picked up again after that. And so we think that these are the main reasons why.
So the next question is, do we collect information about who the providers are, the demographics?
With the providers, what we get from the R&Rs, we do collect the language that they speak. So you can see that in the portfolio. For each county and for the state, you can see the percentage of at least one staff that speak. We look at the top 6 languages for that county, separated by centers and homes. But that's, yeah, other than that, that's the only demographic information that the Rs collect and send us.
Okay, will we be collecting this data annually and doing this type of presentation annually?
So we have been doing this every 2 years since 1997. That is the timeline that we have for now is still to do that biennially. We may adjust that in the future since we'll we'll have more sort of readily available data coming up soon. So yeah, I would say stay tuned, but we'll definitely continue at least doing it the way we have been, which is every 2 years. And we always have a presentation like this as well.
The next question, do you believe that the Newsom administration will put more public funding into childcare subsidies?
Wait, so the question was, do I think that the Newsom administration will put more money into childcare subsidies?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think they already have, and you know, every little bit helps. But you can see that there's still such a lack. The gap is still pretty large, so it would take a lot to fulfill all of that need. And also, you know, increasing the number of children that get subsidized care is obviously very important, but also increasing the reimbursement rates for providers is important as well. As you can see, if the providers aren't getting reimbursed adequately, like with the family child care providers, it's really not a viable income. And so both of those are important. I want to answer to just on the demographic questions. We have the California ECE workforce study that's being conducted this year that the Center for the Study of Child Care Employment at Berkeley is doing in partnership with the network, and that will have a lot of detailed information on demographic information and a lot of other information, economic security, all of that. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of years.
Someone is sort of a follow-up for the demographic question. Where do we find the languages of providers?
So if you go to our website, I'll put the link up here. You will see all of the counties listed out, and you can select whichever counties you want to look at, or you can select the California page. It's on the second page. So each county and California has 2 pages. So the second page at the bottom, you can see separated by centers and family and child care homes, the percentage that speak various languages. And the way we do it is we collect all the languages they speak, and then we list the top 6 for that county. And then you'll also see percentage for other languages that aren't in those 6.
Do we have data on the number of infants and toddlers versus preschool age?
The number of infants, are they asking about center supply, or I'm not quite sure what the question is.
I'm not sure. If the person who asked the question can follow up in the chat box.
I mean, so we have for centers, we list the licensed supply separated by age group. So by, yeah, infant, toddler, 0 to 2, preschool, 2 to 5, and school age. So you can see that.
Yeah, she's asking about homes. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So family childcare homes have one license that encompasses all the age groups. They have different requirements on ratios of ages, but we don't know details on more than that because the way the licensing works.
Okay, it looks like there are no more questions.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll put my contact information back here. If anything comes up after the webinar, feel free to reach out. And thank you all again for joining us today to learn more about this important information.